much. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we're going to go straight into the questions.
Right.
No formalities, anything. How can you relate poetry to life?
Poetry. So, life in general is poetry in itself for me, because you find poetry in everything. Because there is beauty in everything that Allah has created, and so if you pay close attention to that, there is a story it's telling you. So it's more of you are taking that story from it. So yeah, there is poetry in everything in life if you pay attention closely, especially nature.
All right, so I guess my next question would be, now what is that poetry? What does poetry mean to you?
Poetry is life to me. I breathe poetry, I eat poetry, I sleep poetry. Poetry has been a lifesaver for me in my darkest of times. It has been able to allow me create that realm for healing for myself. So poetry is life for me.
Poetry is life. Poetry is healing. That's nice. Why poetry?
Because it allows me switch into whatever character that I want to become. It allows me that freedom to move from one story or another without that feeling of I might be saying so much about myself. So it allows me to switch, to have different personalities, if I may say, and it gives me the opportunity to also tell other people's story. So it just allows me live people's story.
Okay. So you mentioned that poetry allows you to switch. Now, why do you need to switch to maybe a different personality? What's the need for that?
Because I feel like everybody has different personalities, but then most people die without tapping into them. Because I feel at every stage in life, you become something else, whether better or worse. And the more you understand who you're becoming, the better it is for you, because you become self-aware, and self-awareness is power, because you're able to navigate life differently, on a different vibe, on a different radar, and that's beautiful. So for me, I think it's very important. That I'm able to identify that. So the switching just enables me leave that and know myself fully.
Okay. So is it more like living life in a different way at every stage or every different point you find yourself in life?
Yes, because I feel like some people, they struggle to stay that same person they were, because they are either scared of being vulnerable, they're scared of change, something. So, but then when you're just open, you just let it flow without losing yourself, because you're just trying to find your higher self. And your higher self might be more beautiful or worse than before, but then again, you can find beauty in whatever it is you pay attention to, whether good or bad, actually.
So I guess my next question is, through what lens do you view life? Because some people will view life through the lens of music. That means when you listen to music, everything is okay, or music gives you that emotion. Some people live life through movies, so you watch a movie and you're able to understand life better through that movie. So would you say poetry is a lens through which you view life, or would it be something else?
Yeah, I would say poetry is, and also my religion, but separating it from culture. As coming from the north, it's intertwined with culture, and then it becomes something on its own. So I would say I see it through poetry and through my religion. And also why I'm saying poetry also in respect to my religion is because you have the Prophet ﷺ, who also loved poetry. In the Quran, I mean, for me, I would say that Allah Azza wa Jal has the beautiful way of saying so much in little words that when you expand it, it's poetry in itself for me. So I would say through my religion and through poetry.
So I dabbled in poetry a little bit, and one thing that I noticed about poems is, I think you just mentioned this, you have one word, right? But that word can mean so many things. So can you explain the power of that, or the power of words, or the power of poems when it comes to life in itself?
Yeah, so you see, when Okay, for me personally, what I do is I could write a poem today feeling a certain type of way, but then I try to abstain from explaining what it's about because I would love the audience to translate it or just relate with it just how they possibly can. So it could be that I'm telling a story of loss in this poem, but by not explaining it, somebody else might be seeing a message of maybe hope or something. So again, it allows you just see it through your reality. So it's really powerful because when I started, I didn't realize how powerful it was until the very one I did on domestic violence. Someone called me from Maiduguri and said because of my video, he stopped beating his wife. And I said, okay, something that can actually change mindsets is very powerful. Yeah.
Because I think poetry has a way of saying one thing but meaning another. Because like you mentioned, everyone has different life experiences, and a lot of times we view the poems or we read them or understand them to our experiences.
I could give you an example. A recent poem I wrote, there is this line where I said, stop hugging the sun, you are not the moon. This eclipse will leave you in flames. So for somebody out there, it could mean, okay, stop hurting yourself. Somebody could say, oh, it means, okay, just stop paying attention to people who hurt you. So it's just like, but then it's just nice when you say it because it could just mean different things. Yeah.
So I want to go more into the process. What's your creative process like? If you wanted to sit down and write a poem, how does it work? Does it just come in the air, or do you have a system of, okay, I want to write about this, I'm going to write about this?
Honestly, I can be a little bit radical when it comes to that. But then there are a couple of things that must be in place sometimes, depending on the mood. So for some, when I'm sad and I'm writing, I need ice cream.
That's good. It's a good thing to have.
I need ice cream, and it's mostly at night. But then I cannot write at a place that's quiet. I create my own distraction, and then I write. And also there's another type of process for me where it's like I'd be sleeping and then my brain, especially when I'm having writer's block, so I force myself to sleep, but then I don't sleep, so it's like I'm hibernating and it's like I'm in between two worlds. It sounds creepy, but that's how I see it to be. So it's like I'm sleeping but I'm not sleeping, so it's like my brain is suspended. And then it's like one word comes, then I just write down that one word and then I go back. And then another comes, and then it might not make sense. There was one time I was writing, literally it was like just one word that belonged to the end of the poem, and then the rest was like in the beginning, and then I didn't have the middle, and it took me another week for me to actually get that. And there are days where it's like waterfalls, it just comes like so, but ice cream helps me a lot.
Yeah, that's one of my other questions. What does the ice cream do? Because I think that's really interesting.
Honestly, I don't know.
Is it because it's cold? Does it have to do with the temperature?
I think
Does it depend on the type of ice cream?
Oh yeah, it has to be coconut flavor.
Oh, it has to be. Have you tried other flavors?
Yeah.
What happens?
It's just coconut is my favorite.
Oh, it's your favorite?
I think maybe it's the sugar rush. So when I'm having that, it's like I'm restless. I'm looking for something, okay, like that. So, and it's since I was a kid, you know, my mom would always offer that whenever I'm sad. So whenever I'm sad, it's like ice cream automatically elates me.
Okay.
So yeah.
So it has like a sentimental value, kind of.
Right.
Ice cream. So it's not just ice cream.
It's not. It has to be coconut.
So on one of your posts on Instagram, you mentioned that stories are all we got, right?
Right.
And I think that's a very powerful statement. So if you could explain to us what that means.
Okay, I said that because the common example I could give is that, you know, the Christians, the Muslims, Jew, pagan, whatever, if you're a Christian, you have not met Jesus. Me as a Muslim, I've not met Muhammad, peace be upon him. But then, peace be upon them both. But then it's that story of him that was told to you and the story that was told to the Christian of Jesus that made them believe. And also religion, for instance, in Nigeria, religion is like a fundamental thing for people, like the basic. When you're growing up in a house, whether Christian, Muslim, they take it seriously. So Allah Azza wa Jal gave us the Bible, gave us the Quran. If words were not powerful, if story was not important, the Lord would not use it as a way to convey his message and preserve it over time. So this just shows how much that story is actually all we've got. Because I can remember one time Ahmadidat was having this debate, and then this Christian asked him, he said, so how would you feel after you die and then on the day of judgment you realize that Christianity was the truth and not Islam? And he said, not worse than you would feel when you realize Islam is and Christianity isn't. And I think both of them are basing that on the story, because, you know, what if it's not true? What if so really stories.
So what is your story, Alhan?
My story? Okay, when you say what's my story, what aspect of my story?
Anything that comes to mind. If I was to ask you your story, what's the first thing that comes to your head?
The first thing that would come to my head, or that's coming to my head right now, I believe should be related to my journey in terms of poetry. And the first thing that's coming to my head now is actually when I would upset my mom when I was 8, 9 years old. And you know how our African mothers or Nigerian mothers can get, and when they get very angry, they don't want to talk to you, and when they're talking, you must not talk. Even when you're right, keep quiet. So I get frustrated. So I would stand, and I know I'm right. Then I'll start crying. When she's done, I'm upset. So I'll take a pen and a paper, and I'll write a letter explaining, but then explaining it in a story form. Then I'll put it under her pillow. And after she reads it, she would come and apologize to me. My mom was very stubborn. May her soul rest in Jannah. So when she did that, I said to myself, something that is capable of making my mom apologize to me is something worth holding on, because I would love to see more apologies. So that was how I held on to writing. And then my aunt got abused by her husband, literally pulling her braids, you know, from the scalp, like uprooting her hair. He would beat her up and things like that. So when it got to that stage, she's my favorite aunt, and then I was very upset. So I just wrote, and then I hid it because I was scared. Let me not go and take it in, and he now Kukuma beat me too. So I kept it, and then my mom found it. So she said, we must make a video. And then that's how we made a video. She directed the video, and then we posted it on Instagram. So that was how I started gaining recognition. And at that time, I didn't know what really I was doing or what poetry meant until my mom started showing me some of the pieces that she wrote, letters between her and my dad. And there was like so much poetry element in it. I was like, okay. So she's like, yeah. So she's like, I should just keep writing. So seeing that video, Lola Shune, daughter-in-law to Wale Shoyinka, she is the director of Aiki Festival. She saw the video and she came to Kaduna and said, okay, they should call me. And then she said, can you write a piece on the Northern Nigerian woman and, you know, something motivational? And I was new, really, because I'm like, okay. So I told my mom, and we're in the office. She was on the couch lying down. And then I'm like, this is what we're supposed to do. Da, da, da. She's like, okay. So we started writing together, actually. So the rhymes in the Yes You Can one. So I'm like, I feel like I should fuse in Hausa. Then I'm like, I was just playing. And then I go, have you heard of our very own Laboyari? And then she goes, to Zauna Kajilabari. Then that's how we wrote that together. So yeah, really that's my story. But throughout the journey, she's been supportive. She became my manager.